Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This big good show, we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Ishura Season 1, Episode 6. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So this episode, I kind of ended up getting what I thought this episode might be, and ended up being some really interesting twists and turns of developments. It's really interesting to get a lot of interactions between these characters because it's happening now. But I have seen like some of the list of characters from this story, just so I can familiarize myself with some names that I might be forgetting. But there's certain people that haven't been introduced in the show yet, so obviously this isn't everybody, but still, it's like a lot of stuff is popping off. So I wonder. Like, it does seem like, right, the first half of the season is introducing you a lot of these key characters. The back half is just going to be, like, all of this clashing and coming together. Some of the surprises, Sojiro and Yuno meeting with Hidao was kind of interesting. I was like, why would you go to Eurasia out of any place? I mean, Sojiro's just looking for a good fight. So he's interested in the Tournament of Heroes or Tournament of Champions or whatever, right? That's his only real motivation. Yuno wants to help with the whole Lethea thing because she's like, it turns out like what happened to my home wasn't just an accident. Like someone went messing around and activated the Labyrinth Guardian, and that's why things popped off and just it ended up being the massacre that it was, and I'm the only survivor there. It turns out apparently the person that was there undercover was Dekai. So she's like, I need someone else to blame rather than myself. I can't make it just seem like, it was some random accident. She believes like someone activated it. I mean, because multiple characters have shown up. They're not just like Sojiro, but we know like Atlas. I keep saying Atlas. Sorry, I had to correct myself previous with that. Atlas had shown up there, but by the time he got there, like Sojiro had already like done his thing and taken it down. So that was like sometime afterwards. But she needs someone to blame, and let's not forget she's ready to stab Sojiro in the back because she has this like insecurity of just like him being so strong and flaunting that strength when she herself feels so weak. So for her, it's like I want to create like for one, I want to use Sojiro as a means of like potentially going after the person that's responsible for everything that happened to my home and the people I know. But also I want to she made it clear in episode 1 she wants to put him in a position where he fights some of the strongest people here, where he will most likely die, and because it's like, that way you'll be weak in comparison to someone else instead of standing so strong, so. But Hidao's kind of using this opportunity to his advantage, and he's sending Sojiro to go up against Terran, which we haven't seen, us as the audience have not seen Terran fight. So it's going to be really, really interesting seeing like when those two eventually duke it out. He's supposed to be the assassin, but it's like, I don't see Sojiro being the stealthy type. It's like, no, he's like run head first into the situation, just like we saw in episode 1 with the golems. So it's like, I don't think this is going to be stealthy, but to be fair, he has no real association with Eurasia, but Eurasia and Lethea are at war, so who gives a shit? So that was an interesting development. Then we also had the whole situation with Dekai and Reneji, because Reneji went to go see Kurt and found Dekai there, and they had their little back and forth. Dekai did bring up something interesting. He was like, we found out, like, timeline-wise, what happened to him losing his swarm as well as Kurt's, like, home getting destroyed was all, like, 4 years ago. But it's like, how did you, like, rebuild your entire swarm? Because it was all wiped out by the true Demon King 4 years ago. So how did you, like, do that? And he was like, why would I basically tell a minion, like, why, like, what... But Dekai's not really pushing any of it, though. I do love the whole, like... Because even Reneji, it's like, he's super fast, and he's fast enough to take me out before I can even use my word art, so... But it's because he's wondering, like, hey, did you notice, like, humans, we keep diaries, and, lo and behold, look at Kurtz. She has one. And it's like... Well, because we know the messages that Dekai found out about in episode 3 were written in Braille. We know that. So that's when we also got introduced to, like, Reneji was also in that episode, so we learned about Kurtz as well. So we saw that, and I'm like, are they really drawing that direct parallel? I was like, feels like that's too much of a red herring, and it kind of was, but it kind of isn't. The wording is interesting because they make it seem like, hey, she was manipulated or enticed by someone, but it's like, but you can't really talk to her because she never actually saw who it was. I mean, who knows if you'd assume they'd had direct contact. She'd be able to, like, tell their voice, but I guess maybe a word art, you'd be able to disguise your voice to some extent. So, as not being able to physically see them, that makes it easy to kind of use her. But it's like enticing what I mean, I guess the enticement could be, hey, this is for Taryn's sake, so you giving us this information is just for the greater good, not realizing you're basically fueling and giving information to some extent to the enemy that's going to be fighting against Taryn, who for but I thought that was so interesting because Dakai made the point, like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to interrogate Kurtz, nor am I going to, like, lay a hand on her or you, Regneji. And so for him, it's like, I got to protect my swarm like I always do. And that includes Kurtz because it's like they are a package deal. You can't have one without the other. And that's the only reason why Reneji goes as above and beyond for Lithia as he does, because it's for Kurt's sake. She's the only thing. Like, that's the only thing, I guess, keeping him in employment to Terran. And she knows that. So, for him, it's like, I'm going to protect my swarm. I'm going to do what I always do, because I always make the right choice. Which I'm wondering, is that kind of implying, like, he doesn't always make the right choice? Maybe he didn't make the right choice years ago, but maybe ever since then, he's always been like, maybe it's not even, like, necessarily the right choice. It's like, whatever choice I make is the right choice. I think that's probably more so what the wording meant. Either way, we had... But Taryn and Kurtz, that's an interesting relationship where it's like, seeing them interact is because, like, she's kind of like this stoic mother, but we see, like, little cracks in it because Kurtz refers to her as mom, but it's like, don't call me that. I was like, oh, why is it? And it's like, she immediately answers saying, like, oh, like, it's disrespectful to your actual mother. Like, I think it's like, I think in her mind, it's kind of like, you have one mother in this world, and I might be filling a similar role, but I do not deserve to be called your mom. I'm not the one that you lost. I'm not the one that meant the world to you that you lost. So it's like, I have no right to take that name umbrage on. Like, I am someone who looks after you and I care for you, but I don't have the rights to kind of take that name. But still being called mom by her, even later on, she still kind of cracks a smile, because I think she does enjoy it, being seen as a mom, and there's like having her as a daughter. That's why I was kind of like, oh, please don't, because it's an awkward dinner, because you're like, Taryn's obviously got to know some stuff, because I'm sure Dakai is like filling her in about everything. So I'm like, what's going on here? So I was like, is she playing like dumb? It just felt like, not unless Dakai's keeping a lot of like what he's discovered to himself until like he has some actual hard proof and evidence. So that's why I was like, I don't know. Because it felt like a sincere scene, but it's like, you never know what someone's keeping under the hood type of situation. You have no idea what they might be hiding. So we also have Kia and Elia in Lithia, which I thought was so interesting. I'm like, why are you here? Would you be immediately heading back to Eurasia? But it turns out, oh no, I've got someone here I've got to wipe out because they know about the world word. And I should have known, like, she's got an acquaintance, and it turns out that acquaintance is Lana, who, I have to correct myself, I don't remember if I did this in episode 2, but I definitely did it last episode. I think I called her Luna, it's Lana. But what I thought was so interesting, it's like, it makes so much sense, because who's the one other person Taryn talked to about the world word? And it's Lana, so it makes a lot of sense. But because I was like, what's going on there? And it's like, oh, turns out she's a spy for Eurasia. I was like, interesting. I wasn't expecting that. So it's worked out for her, which I think it's so interesting, because she's like, yeah, I've got two people who trust me, Higure and Shulk. I mean, Shulk has kind of made it clear he'll do whatever it takes for money, but it's also, he wants information on, but it also comes from, like, he wants information on where the Demon King died. I can't remember I can't remember if that was Taryn or Lana that brought that up. I think it was Lana who brought that up. So I guess that's why she's like, oh yeah, Higure, once again, this the complicated enigma that is Higure, where it's like, oh, you will follow anyone's orders, but you're kind of a slave with no chains. Like, there's some kind of freedom in your circumstances. So it's like, he might follow Lana because they've created enough of a rapport that she's like, yeah, I could convince them to join our side and join our cause. And at the same time, you have while this is happening, like, Elia's like, oh, I gotta kill her. I wonder what she was going to do. Like, there's something in a bottle she was going to use. And I was like, is it poison or something? Like, what are you going to do? Like, wouldn't it be... Well, I guess it's like, as long as you're able to kill her and get out of the city with... like, you're going to seem so unassuming and unsuspecting that I guess it won't matter. But I'm like, what are you going to do? Like, to get out of Lithia? Like, wouldn't that draw a lot of attention? But it's not like... Lana's not like a... I mean, she's, I guess, high up enough, but it's not like you went after Taryn yourself, So I guess that's like the big difference. What I mean is, like, maybe taking out someone like Lana would not draw the amount of attention like taking out Taryn, for example, or something like that, or Reneji, or like, any of the wyverns and stuff. But because it also, I think I wasn't sure about this in what was it, episode 4. I wasn't quite sure about. Okay, it's like, okay, so she's here in this village because she was giving updates to Horatia about what she had found, but I think she left out the bits about Kia. That's her, like, secret weapon, because she doesn't want anyone Horatia to know about Kia's existence, because it's like, no, I need to surprise everyone, because no one's going to see her coming when I show up and I'm the one that, like, backed Kia. Because Hidao was kind of saying, like, kind of a similar thing for Sojiro, where it's like, he wants to, enter the fray with the tournament of champions and heroes, but it's like, yeah, like, you need to kind of be backed by someone pretty high up. But it's like, yeah, if you go after Terran, you satisfy us enough, someone from Horatia, maybe himself, will back Sojiro and put him in that position. And that's where it's like, okay, so I got to keep this hush-hush until the last minute. I'll be like, oh yeah, Kia's my champion. It's like, oh, some little girl. And then before anyone can find out the truth, it's like, she gets revealed during the tournament of like, oh my god, she's the world word. Like, she's going to decimate everyone. That's Elia's hope at the very least. So, I also found out a little bit too more about Lana, that it was an interesting conversation because she kind of discussed the whole Lithia situation. It's like, oh, it's so peaceful here, even though war with Horatia is like right around the corner, because no one here they think the wyverns are so invincible, like no trouble has ever really been able to penetrate the walls because of the wyverns and because of Terran. It's like, there's nothing we have to worry about. They'll believe that they're safe. And it's like, even Lana's like, Terran is only in the position she's in right now because she's kind of burdened with what people hope for her. People look at her and believe in her so much and back her. Even Elia was saying something, and Lana's like, oh, don't feel bad for her because she's the one that's about to start her. Like, we already just came out of the reign of the true Demon King, and what does this proclaimed Demon King do? She goes off on her own, and she's about ready to start another massive war. And it's like, we're taking Terran out is the best for everyone, because her little revolution is going to lead to more death after so much death under the true Demon King's reign, and it's like, we don't need that. So I think it's just, well, I mean, to be fair, she's all about Horatia, but to be fair, Horatia is people from Lithia who just like spun off into the principality that Lithia is. So Lana could easily, but I think for her, it's like her loyalty is to Horatia, because she sees Horatia as like, there's no way this little principality that is Lithia could do anything against the behemoth that is Horatia and its power, even with someone like Terran at the helm. So it's just the lesser of two evils, and not even two evils. It's just, no, it's for the betterment of the world for Horatia to win. So I think it's so interesting, despite her claiming to be such a good spy, she didn't see Elia to the extent that she has. Because Elia is just looking for her opportunity, but before she could, Dekai shows up, and Dekai has figured her out. It's like, oh, I know that, he's like, and he also reveals, oh yeah, like, I know about Brill because it's a thing in a distant world. Which, like, oh. I was like, I think that was something I was confused about too in episode 3. I was like, is he a visitor too? Turns out he is. It's they don't always clarify like who's a. It's so it seems like so far, and this could be once again my mistake. It seems like the only visitors so far we've been introduced to are Sojiro and Dekai, which you can only assume those two are going to clash. Especially the whole conversation about being swordsmen, but especially Dekai being like, I'm not a swordsman, I'm a bandit, which comes full circle in this episode. I love it when he's like, yeah, There's no like secret place I can't find, no lock I can't pick. I'm that good. It's like, yeah, I might be good with a sword, but I'm not a swordsman. I'm a bandit, and I figured you out. It's like, right. It's, Kurtz made the perfect patsy, but I know you're a spy. I even know that you used to be a spy, not only for Horatio, but even because like the organization she used to belong to is like the was it Obsidian? Was it Eye or Eyes? Either way, Dekai's figured her out, and it's like, yeah, Terran wants to see you. So it's like, how long had Dekai figured it out? Like, was it before he, probably like after he visited Rigneji, and then he probably went to tell, because this scene after he was talking to Rigneji in Kurt's room was the scene before Terran and Kurt. So by then she probably already knew about Lana. It's like, well, the question is like, how long has she known about Lana? And because how much, it's the conversation of going back to what I brought up before of like, how much is Dekai the type of person that will bring his theories to you without hard evidence? Maybe he'll bring them to you and then he'll go find hard evidence. Who knows? But it's also going to be interesting too, because Lana's the one that lied about like, oh yeah, I never found anything about the world word, even though she was passing that all on to Elia, who's saying like, oh no, like it ended up just being a rumor. So I'm curious how Terran's going. Is Terran going to be like, no, that was just that? Because Lana herself believes it's bullshit because Elia said it was bullshit. But now it's like, nah, Elia lied to you. And Lana was lying to Terran just for the sake of, like, yeah, I got to make sure Horatia gets the world word before anyone else. But it's like, it's so interesting, too, because she hung out a little bit with the world word and not even realized it. Because you would never expect, like, oh, such a small kid, like, the world word, one of the most powerful abilities being in such a small package, essentially, So she's been taken, and now Elia's like, damn it, if they make Lana talk, she could reveal my position in all of this. So it's like, cool. Am I going with the power of Kia, the world word? Would I be able to kill Lana, keep my secret, and get out of Lithia before they find out? It's like going to be interesting because all roads are converging. Once again, Sojiro's on this way with who well, he's after Terran. Terran's going to be trying to interrogate Lana. Has beef with Dekai because she blames Dekai for what happened. Elia needs to kill Lana before word gets out about her connection to her, and then finding out about the world word, which Kia's there with her. So she's going to have to probably try and kill everyone that's going to be there. But you'd assume Higure and Shulk might be there too. Like, it's all converging in that moment. The only character we're missing, because Regneji is going to get probably mixed up in that as like the defender of the city and stuff. But like the next episode is called like what? War Commences, I think. I think that's what it's called, or War Begins. It's something like that. So that's going to be interesting. I think the only character that probably won't pop up would be Alice. He'd be the only one. So I'm curious to see where all of that ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.